Let's move on to look at dividing fractions today. Okay, so dividing fractions, and let's try to understand what it is we're actually being asked. So for example here, if you have 3 whole pizzas, and we're trying to work out how many half pizzas are there in 3 wholes. So we're dividing 3 by a half. So 3 divided by a half, so we're saying to ourselves, how many halves are there in 3? Well, there are 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 3 divided by a half is 6. I know this might look strange, why are we getting a bigger number when we're dividing it? But that's what we're trying to work out. How many halves are there in 3 wholes? So a half in 3 divided by a half. Because we're getting a bigger number, there is a little process and steps that we're going to follow. So we're going to turn the last fraction upside down. Okay, so this 3, we could essentially write it as 3 over 1. Okay, so that's going to stay the same. 3 over 1, any whole number is a fraction over 1. So we keep the first fraction the same. We're then going to flip that last fraction and we're going to change that divide into multiply. So then 3 times 2 is 6 over 1, and anything over 1 is just itself. So we have figured out how many halves are in 3 by doing 3 a half divided by 3. We've changed it into multiply and we've flipped that last fraction, and then our answer is 6, because we can see clearly there are 6 halves in 3. So another example, how many 1/6 are there in 2? So if we have 2 whole pizzas, how many 1/6 pizzas do we get? So the question that we're asking ourselves is 2 divided by 1 over 6. And we'd be able to count that to clearly see that there are 12 sixths, so that's 1/6 of a pizza. There are clearly 12 of them. And again, we're dividing by a fraction and we're getting a bigger number out. So let's actually see what is happening here. So if we have 2 divided by 1/6, remember we could write that to 2 over 1. We're going to keep the first fraction the same. We're then going to turn that into a multiply, and then we're going to flip that last fraction. So this last fraction is flipped. And then we can go ahead and answer that. So 6 times 2 gives you 12 over 1, and then we can see our answer is 12. Okay. Right, there was no need to copy those examples down just yet, but from now on, let's copy all of these examples down. Okay, so we're going to go through our steps just now. Our first step we're going to do is to leave the first fraction as it is. So we've got 2 over 3 divided by 4 over 5. So we're going to write out that fraction, the first fraction, and leave it as it is. We're then going to change the divide into multiply. So that's what we've done. We've changed that divide into multiply. And then we're going to flip our second fraction. So just now it's 4 over 5, but we're going to flip that so that the 5's on top and do 5 over 4. And then we can just go ahead and multiply using our previous skills. So we've got 2 over 3 now multiplied by 5 over 4. If we use our same skills that we used when we were multiplying, we're going to check our diagonals. So we've got 2 and 4 there that we can simplify. And we're just going to change that 2 to a 1, dividing it by 2, change that 4 to a 2, and then we can go ahead and multiply our numerators together. So 1 times 5 is 5, and then our denominators, 3 times 2 gives you 6. Double check, it can't be simplified, so that's our final answer. Okay, so these are the examples that I would like you to copy down, and copy down all of those steps as well, please. Okay, second example. We are going to leave the first fraction as it is. So we've got 5 over 8 divided by 2 over 3. So 5 over 8, leave it as it is. Change that divide into multiply. And then we're going to flip our last fraction. So that 2 over 3 is becoming 3 over 2. And then we can go ahead and multiply as normal. If we check our diagonals, we've got 5 and 2. We can't simplify that, so we're just going to leave it as it is. And then check our other diagonal, 3 and 8. Well, we can't simplify that either, so we're just going to go straight ahead and multiply our numerators. 5 times 3 to give you 15, and 8 times 2 to give you 16. And again, we cannot simplify that any further, so we're just going to leave it as is. Okay, third example. Our steps: leave the first fraction as is, then we're going to change the divide into multiply, flip the second fraction, and then we're just going to go ahead and multiply like we've been doing before. So first step, that first fraction stays the same. We're going to change the divide into multiply, and we're going to flip that last fraction. Okay. Once we get to this step, we can check our diagonals. So we've got 9 and 3. They are both in the 3 times table, so we're going to divide them both by 3. 9 divided by 3 gives you 3. 3 divided by 3 gives you 1. Check your second diagonal, 5 and 10, both in the 5 times table, so we're going to divide by 5. 10 divided by 5 gives you 2. 5 divided by 5 gives you 1. And then we can go ahead and multiply. 3 times 1 gives you 3. 2 times 1 gives you 2. And that is your final answer. Okay, so I'm about to ask you to try these yourself. Remember your steps. Leave the first fraction as it is, change the divide into multiply, flip the last fraction, and then multiply as you have done previously. So pause the video here and give these a try. Okay, let's go over the answers. So first step for the first one, first fraction stays the same. Turn that divide into a multiply, and then we flip that last fraction. Now we're on to the last step already, we can just go ahead and multiply. Check your diagonals, 5 and 2, can't simplify them. 3 and 9 we can, divide 9 by 3 to get 3, 3 by 3 to get 1. Then we have 5 times 1 is 5, 3 times 2 is 6. So that's the final answer there. Okay, question B. First step, first fraction, leave it as it is. Turn that divide into a multiply, and then flip that last fraction. Check your diagonals because we're on to multiplying now. 3 and 5 we can't do anything with. 8 and 6 we can divide them both by 2. So change that 6 to a 3, that 8 to a 4. And then go ahead and multiply. 3 times 3 gives you 9. 4 times 5 gives you 20. So 9 over 20 for that one. And the last one, first step, keep that fraction as it is, turn that divide to a multiply, and then flip your last fraction. Now we're going to go ahead and simplify our diagonals. So before I go into simplify our diagonals, we can really see why it's useful, because you don't want to be timesing 4 by 15 because you'll just get a huge number. So that's why these dividing, simplifying our diagonals is really helpful. So 4 and 8 both in the 4 times table, so divide that by 4 and divide the 8 by 4. 5 and 15 can divide them both by 5 to get 1 and 3. And then we can go ahead and multiply. 1 times 3 is 3, 1 times 2 is 2. And that's your final answer. If you wanted to go one step further, you could convert this top-heavy fraction, okay, or improper fraction, into a mixed number by saying, well, how many 2's go into 3? Well, there's 1 and 1 left over. So well done if you got this step further as well. Mark all your work, and there we go.